Uh, Yuda, good morning. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm here today on Quandamooka country, which I'm here on North Stradbroke Island, and also takes in Morgumpin, Moreton Island, across to the Brisbane River, down to the Logan River, across to southern Stradbroke, up to Stradbroke Island and all the islands in between. I'd like each of us to think about the land that you are on today and think about the ancestors that walked on that land and the importance that remains for those people that continue to have a connection there. So welcome back to the Queensland Tourism Industry Council's Lunchtime Yarn series. I'm Delvene Cockatoo Collins, and today I'm joined by the lovely sisters, Sinead and Brooke Sutton. Would you like to tell everyone a little bit about yourselves, Brooke and Sinead?
Yeah, sure. I'd firstly like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of land as well and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging on which this event takes place. My name is Sinead. I'm a proud Kalkadoon woman and I'm a contemporary Indigenous artist, but I currently live in Bundaberg, Queensland. I've been painting for about 10 years now, and during that time I've worked with various government departments and organisations from all around Australia. Like the NRL, the AFL, Tennis Australia, the Queensland Government, the Commonwealth Games and the Defence Force, to name a few. I've worked with a lot of schools as well, and I've exhibited my paintings at Queensland's Parliament House, the Queensland State Library, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Singapore and London, and have sold my art to collectors all around the world.
I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Brooke Sutton. I'm 16 years old. I'm also a contemporary Indigenous artist, and of course I am Sinead's younger sister. I live in Bundaberg, Queensland, and I've been painting since I was around 6 years old, but I only started painting professionally 2 years ago. I can tell you it has been the craziest and busiest 2 years of my entire life, and it doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon.
It's wonderful to get to know you a bit better and to hear about your wonderful careers. You know, you're both, you've already had such a wonderful experience with your artwork, and we can see that, you know, from what you've already done, the future is amazing for both of you. Sinead, I've crossed paths with you a few times in the Athletes Village at the Commonwealth Games, at the Queensland Tourism Industries, Destination IQ, and seeing some of your work online. It's absolutely fascinating to follow your journey, and it's really exciting to be with you both here today. Sinead, tell me about your art and what it represents to you.
Well, I'm very lucky that I get to do my passion as my career. I absolutely love painting. I'm also very passionate about reconciliation as well, which is why I like to try and combine two worlds with my art, my traditional Aboriginal heritage and the vibrant colours of modern Australia as well. That creates something that's very different and unique, and it's through sharing those stories and that art with the world that I like to try and create a better understanding for our culture as well, which in turn helps to promote reconciliation.
Wonderful. I can see a piece in the background there, and you talk about the vibrancy, and I can feel that in that piece behind you, and you've talked about reconciliation. So yeah, beautiful to, you know, your work is really identifiable. Thank you for describing that, and specifically about reconciliation too, which we've just had Reconciliation Week. So Sinead, what inspired you to start making art at such a young age?
Well, I've been painting for about 10 years now. I was 13 when I first started painting, and it was pretty much because I was having a bit of trouble at school. I was very shy. I had no confidence whatsoever. I had trouble fitting in as well, and I was getting bullied. I was coming home more and more upset every day, and my parents began to worry. I was lucky that I did have parents who knew that there was something that was wrong. They ended up contacting my school and talking to one of the teachers there, and it was that teacher that encouraged me to enter an art competition. I didn't think anything of it. I just wanted to enter it for the fun of it, and I ended up coming first in the open category. And it was that competition that really sparked my passion for art. And from there, I tried to take on any and every opportunity that came my way and wanted to push myself to my limits. Programs came up like the Young Achievers program, Young Scholars, Youth Parliament. I wanted to achieve that. I wanted to do them all. Galleries wanted me to exhibit my paintings. I wanted to do that too. I wanted to excel in this field because I loved it. And when you're doing what you love, it's not a job, it's a passion. And now I really think that that has helped to shape me into the person that I am today. I've painted on everything now, from canoes, water tanks, car doors to giant murals. And it's been an absolutely amazing experience. I never would have imagined back then that that shy little girl would have been on the journey that I've been on now.
Oh, sounds like such a wonderful bit of advice that you've shared. One particularly about taking every opportunity that's come your way, and that it sounds like you've also pursued those opportunities, you know, outside of what would normally be offered to you in your hometown. So I've heard of that as well. Like, also speaking about your passion, I can feel that, you know, in the way that you're speaking, that you've absolutely focused on your career, and you know, the benefits really show. The effort that you put in are showing now, you know, 10 or more years down the track. Congratulations, Sinead.
Thank you.
Look, you're also producing your own art pieces now as well. Tell us why you began this journey and what your art means to you.
Well, Sinead's been my mentor and role model for many years now. She is the person that I aspire to be like. She's a fantastic role model, and she's always encouraged me to express myself through my art. And as I've grown up, I've always seen Sinead travel all around Australia and to all these amazing places and events like Queensland Parliament House and the Commonwealth Games Athletes Village. And it's always been a dream of mine to achieve that as well. I also get my inspiration from my ancient and beautiful culture and my ancestors who stood and fought on Battle Mountain and gave their lives. It's their bravery and their courage that inspires me to be the best person that I can be through my art and my stories.
It's beautiful. You know, what a way to share a talent and a passion is through your own family, and to gain the strength from your elders and your ancestors. And I bet, you know, beyond the two of you, how significant the impact that it's had on your own community, and the pride that you must bring to, you know, broader than just your own family, your elders, the immediate community, and your Kalkadoon people. I know that COVID-19 has been a massive impact for many artists, performing artists, visual artists, you know, right across many different industries, that we've all felt the impact. Personally, I've had to make a lot of changes with the way that I operate. As an independent artist, you know, working out of a studio, I rely on that kind of physical space for people to visit, you know, particularly tourists. And so with the shutdown, with the restrictions of travel to the island, I've had to, you know, consider making my work accessible. So a big part of my shift or pivot, which tends to be the popular word at the moment, was to take my work online. And so that's enabled me to continue trading. Is there anything that you'd like to share about the way that it's impacted you and how you've responded to COVID-19?
Yeah. Well, it's been really unfortunate that COVID has had an impact on everyone in some way or another. I've had a lot of events and exhibitions cancelled or postponed, unfortunately. A lot of them were in different cities and towns and states as well, so I was unable to travel. I think I became a hermit for about 2 months. I didn't leave my house. I just painted, really, and I needed to become a lot more digital savvy as well. I have, like you said, that connection and engagement with people, not being able to meet with people and talk about paintings and feel that connection with them was a lot harder. So the online promotional service, it became not just another platform to promote my art, it became a vital necessity to get my artwork out there and my business out there as well. Luckily, I do have exhibitions after COVID is finished, one of which is at the Pullman and Mercure Hotel in Brisbane, King George Square. We were meant to be having an official relaunch of our paintings there, of our newest artworks, but unfortunately that got postponed. So we're really looking forward to getting back into things and launching that as well. And with restrictions starting to ease, we'll be able to travel more to go to events, exhibitions, and meet with clients again as well. Unfortunately, with NAIDOC Week 2, I always have so much work during NAIDOC week, but as a lot of that's been cancelled, all those opportunities have been cancelled as well. So I've been extremely lucky that I've been busy with commissions and working on other projects too. So I've been very, very lucky in that that aspect, but it's been a very interesting journey.
Yes, and you're right. You know, the shift that we've had to go through, the impact that it's had personally, as well as, you know, protecting our elders, protecting community. One thing that you did mention is about postponing, and I think that's wonderful when people have the confidence in not just outright cancelling things. And when it's attached to a date like NAIDOC week, it's an unfortunate thing that we have to, but potentially if you know, suppliers or buyers can look to postpone, so that when we're out of this, we can reconnect and we can have those exhibitions and or go virtually, you know, like with Meanjin Market. Instead of that being absolutely not available, it became a virtual space, and so performers got to continue their work, visual artists got to continue to be part of that. So I think finding that bit of flexibility during this period has been absolutely essential to our survival. And having your commissions, you know, that people are continuing to support you and wanting, you know, your beautiful work in their homes or corporate offices, it's and that's actually really demonstrative of the way that, you know, as artists we have to have multiple income streams, that it's not just one area where you know, it's not just a retail space or it's not just an exhibition space, that there's talks or workshops, that because of all that income stream, you've been able to, all that different income stream, you've been able to continue trading during that time. So, you know, I'd like to acknowledge you for that. You know, that many artists have had to think about that same thing. How do we at least have something coming in, or how do we at least have some work? And some that I know have been absolutely busy during this time. So yeah, it's going to be good to start to travel again and start to reconnect. Is there anything that you'd like to share as well, Brooke? The changes that you've had to make during this time?
Well, similar to Sinead, I have had quite a few events cancelled because of COVID, but that's mainly because Sinead and I do have a lot of combined events. I did get to spend a lot of time with Sinead and working and catching up on a lot of paintings. But now that school has started back again, I have found it quite difficult to juggle both the schoolwork and the painting. But hopefully things will start getting back on track now that things restrictions have started to ease, yeah.
And if people wanted to find out about your exhibition at the Pullman, how would they visit, or where can they see your work once everything's opened back up again?
Once everything's open back up again, the Pullman's right next to King George Square, so they just have to walk in and all the paintings are on display in the foyer there, so they're quite easy to see. We always do posts on our social media as well, and my website has a lot of the information too, so it's readily available, the information, and quite easy to see.
Nice, that's great to hear. And maybe you can share all those addresses at the end of the talk, if that's all right?
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, Sinead. And so during this period, I feel like, you know, we've all had time to reflect. Not only do we have to get through this period, but it's a time for reflection and, you know, are we going to do things any differently to how we were before? You know, a lot of people have been super busy. Do you think that your business model would shift any as you come out of those restrictions? Like, have you thought about ways of doing things differently, or you know?
Yeah, well, even now everything's really changed. Brooke and I have had to become a lot more digital savvy and concentrate a lot more on the online realm. We've been promoting our social media a lot more, trying to do a post every day or every second day to keep people engaged. We've even tried the paid promotions on Facebook and Instagram too, which they're working really, really well to get our artworks out there. I've also been posting paintings that I've created previously that seem to really reflect what's happening in the world at the moment, whether it's environment or global warming or the Black Lives Matter movement as well. We've been having competitions and giveaways too, which have gotten our artwork out there fantastically, and we will continue to do that also. And we even had a couple of sales too, which we've never really done that before, and that was a huge success. And during this time, I've also signed a contract to get prints made as well of my artworks, and they'll be made of different materials. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm definitely paying a lot more attention to online opportunities too. I've been attending webinars, the First Nations roundtable as well, and just searching for artist opportunities. And yeah, in this time, I definitely have had a lot of time to reflect. I've been able to experiment a little bit more with my paintings too, which has been brilliant, as well as working on commissions too, for reconciliation action plans or businesses, or a couple of personal commissions as well. But I think being cooped up inside for so long has really given me a yearning to want to get back to my country in Mount Isa. So hopefully when all of this is over, I'll head back up there and spend some time with the elders and gather more inspiration from the beautiful animals and the landscape there.
That's lovely. And, you know, there's lots of bits of advice that you've provided in there, and you going into those webinars, so with the Australia Council for the Arts, the First Nations Forum, we're all learning from each other. We're all supporting each other during this period. And what you've just said then around, you know, being digital savvy, doing things like paid promotions within Instagram and Facebook, and that's led to, you know, a higher interaction and a couple of sales. So that's really good to hear, you know, for other artists that may be considering, what else do I need to do?
Yeah. It's certainly a time when we as artists have all had to evolve, I suppose, and get with the times in the digital realm.
Yeah. Okay. And going digital puts your work into, you know, a much more public space. It provides an opportunity for people to look at your work and to buy it, but it also leaves you open to risk. Has there been times where you have faced risk and, you know, the challenges that happens within that space, you know, copying of artwork? And if you don't mind, you know, sharing some of those experiences and how you've managed that?
Yeah. Well, the internet and digital realm is fantastic for promoting your artwork and getting it out there to an audience so large that you couldn't even dream of. But unfortunately, it does leave it open to scammers who have now a limitless supply of paintings and designs and photos that they can take. And it's impossible to scour the internet and find every single piece that might be infringing on your copyright. It's extremely hard. So it's the perfect environment for these scammers to hopefully try and get away with stealing the art and reproducing it. Unfortunately, it has happened to me quite a few times, but I have learned from it, which is good. I always put watermarks on my images now, and I use low resolution photos as well. So that deters them from wanting to try and steal it as much. I'm also using a method as well on my website. It's called shrink wrapping, and it puts like a clear layer over the photo. So when they try and download it, it only saves a blank screen, which is brilliant. It sort of prevents them from stealing it directly off of my website as well. I've done takedown notices and sent it to these organisations, but unfortunately, a lot of the time they do tend to ignore it. So the best thing that I've found is places like Shopify. They have a copyright policy. So if you report these companies to Shopify, they will take them down, which is really good. But I also tend to need to continuously look on the internet and keep my eye on these companies that have stolen my artworks in the past, just to make sure that they're not reposting new products and stuff like that. So it is a long process, but hopefully in the future, I'm working with someone at the moment to try and promote authentic Indigenous art and deter people from trying to buy the rip-offs or the stolen art. So really looking forward to that.
It really sounds like you do a lot from prevention, you know, with the wrapping and the low-res photos up front. So that's a great way to start out for artists that may be considering what do they need to do as they go online. Prevention rather than having to react later on, you know, with those takedown notices. And so the work, you know, with the certificate of authenticity and with the authenticity labelling, how important that is to identify. And you talked about your prints and going under contract. So, you know, when people need to consider when they're buying a piece, whether it's under a strict license agreement, like in a print arrangement, or whether it's actually made and produced by the artist themselves, and who is the artist and where they're from, what is their story around it. So there's some of the kind of questions that people can ask when they're buying art. How much of the profit goes back to the artist, who's managing it. So all of those factors are really important when people are investing in a piece of artwork, and that will then protect artists, you know, future. And yeah, it's such a challenge to work through that. And I can see, you know, with your effort, having to be online, having to look through and see whether people have taken your work and used it for themselves. It must be so frustrating and gut-wrenching that that's your story, that's your work, and somebody has stolen from you. It's like going to someone's shop and shoplifting, but on this kind of massive scale, that they're profiting from your work. So, you know, I wish you all the best as you move through that period. You know, your work is, as again, like so noticeable, beautiful, and people will want part of that, but they need to pay for it, don't they? They want it, they need to pay, and they can go directly to you.
Yes, exactly. The thing is, if no one was buying from these online companies, they wouldn't have any products to sell. So people do need to take into consideration if they're selling authentic products from Aboriginal artists, or if they're just stealing it. It is very upsetting and heart-wrenching when you see all your hard work being taken and stolen and reproduced. And even with all the preventative measures that I've tried, it still continues. It's absolutely crazy. But as I said, at least I've learnt. I did have an issue. I would upload my images, I'd have watermark on them, but I wanted people to be able to see all the detail, so they'd be very high quality photos, so they could see the texture and the brush strokes and everything in there. So the people were just removing the watermarks, and then they had a brilliant high quality photo to reproduce. So it has been a big learning curve, but at least I can learn from my experiences, and Brooke can learn from those experiences as well. She's had a bit of a run-in with people stealing her art too. Hey, Brooke?
Yeah, I've had one of my designs stolen, but we shut that down really quickly and sent them a takedown notice. And by using, like, always watermarking any of my new artworks and using low-res photos, I haven't had any more artwork stolen.
I'm sorry to hear that's happened to you too, Brooke, but you know, it's great. What you've been through, your experience is great information for other artists.
Yeah.
I noticed online, like on Instagram and Facebook, there's been a real shift on identifying, like Trading Black, identifying Aboriginal artists, makers, and designers. And so people are sharing those and following those Aboriginal artists and designers. So that's really helpful when those messages are shared through those hashtags like Trading Black, authentic Aboriginal art. So if people just make that little bit of an effort to do their research and find out, they will know then that directly that benefits back to the artist. Okay, so yes, thank you for your advice during that discussion. So we've kind of come out of this, you know, shifting out of these restrictions, and we're starting to pick things up again. We know that you've got your exhibition coming up at the Pullman. What can we expect from Brooke and Shanae over the next 5 years?
Well, we are working on quite a few projects at the moment. As I mentioned, the Pullman exhibition as well. We have another huge exhibition which was unfortunately postponed this year, so hopefully it'll be next year or the year after. And I've got another project that I've been working on for the last 2 years, and that'll be officially unveiled next year, so I'm very excited for that. But unfortunately, with most of the projects that I'm working on, I've signed confidentiality agreements or are under contract, so I can't really reveal too much about them at the moment. But it's going to be a very busy couple of years and very exciting for Brooke and I as well. And we're going to keep painting, exhibiting our artworks, and working hard.
That's wonderful. And when you talked about like 2 years and, you know, these projects are a long time. These things don't just happen. This is about, you know, your networking, your connections, your hard work, your consistency with your effort for you to get those, you know, high profile jobs and good projects. So people need to know that it just doesn't happen. You know, things don't just get handed to you. You need to actually do your homework, your daily routine. So yeah, so when you think about 2 years, that's a really long time for a project, and I can't wait to hear what that's going to be. I know what it's like signing confidentiality agreements. That's probably the most difficult part of the job, not being able to tell anyone.
Yeah, it's so exciting when it happens, and then you got to wait so long for it to be unveiled, and then you can tell everyone, and by that time it's like, oh, that was 2 years ago.
Yes. Sinead, you're also on the First Nations working group to implement the First Nations tourism plan for the Queensland Tourism Industry Council. Congratulations. And what do you see as your role in this on this First Nations tourism plan?
Well, my role as a member of the First Nations working group is to promote Indigenous tourism and to help implement the First Nations Tourism Potential Plan as well, encouraging businesses and organisations to work with Indigenous tourism operators or to use Indigenous products, and to encourage respect and recognition of Indigenous people, as well as give a voice to Indigenous tourism operators all around Queensland. I do regularly meet with the other members of the group via Zoom and video chats, and we talk about how we can further promote Indigenous tourism and how the plan's coming along so far as well. And through my artwork too, I always try and promote our culture with the world. We're very lucky here in Queensland. We have the 2 oldest continual living cultures in the world right here on our doorstep, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And it's those cultures and experiences, stories and opportunities that tourists, both domestic and international, want to engage with and be a part of. And this is the year of Indigenous tourism, and this is the year that these Indigenous tourism operators need all of our help and support and encouragement now more than ever.
Yes, it's wonderful to highlight all those different businesses across the state, the environments across the state that we all have a connection to. You know, your Kalkadoon mob, our Quandamooka mob here on the island, and I know that wherever you go, people say that their country is the best. There's always a little bit of a, you know, tussle around that, and I absolutely love living here on the island, and you know, sharing my culture to tourists that come into my space and talking with them. People are really interested. They, particularly those that are from the UK and the US, Germany, also very interested in knowing about our culture. But now with these travel restrictions, we're looking at what is this domestic tourism going to look like? And I know that, say, with Brisbane, a lot of residents do have a relationship with the islands. They like to come here for a day trip, and I'm so encouraging people, you know, what's in your neighbourhood, what's in your area, who is that traditional land that you live on, how can you interact through that tourism experience with that traditional owner. So, you know, we all encourage people to get to know whoever that may be, wherever that may be across the state. It's definitely a time where we can consider that, you know, we're very much focused on being able to travel locally as well as within the state. So yeah, well done on your appointment. It's exciting to see that discussion, the Year of Indigenous Tourism, and you know, I would like to see it continue into next year since things have been a little bit restrictive. Can we continue 2021 with the Year of Indigenous Tourism?
I certainly hope so, yeah.
Look, is there anything else that you'd like to share before we finish up this conversation?
I think you've covered it all. It's been lovely talking to you, and thank you for interviewing us.
It's been really lovely to know you.
It's certainly been a different experience working during COVID. So I'm looking forward to when things slowly get back to normal as well, and we can go back to the traveling and exhibiting and sharing our artwork with everyone, not just on the digital platform, being able to meet with people face to face as well. So it's going to be a slow process, but yeah, we are very, very much looking forward to it, and very much looking forward to hopefully getting up to Mount Isa again soon too.
Yeah, wonderful. Go and see your freshwater country.
Yeah, very hot up there though.
Winter time now.
Yeah, true. It gets too cold in winter though. There's no in between. It's either stinking hot or freezing cold.
Yeah, that dry earth. It's red up there too, isn't it? Your country is red earth, and yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Brooke and Shanae. We hope you all, the viewers, enjoyed our second instalment for the Queensland Tourism Industry Council's Lunchtime Yarn Series. I'm Delvine Cockatoo Collins. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.